and welcome to another episode of the Chatty Cuppa. I'm Nirasha from Just Simply Change, and we're going to talk about something that's really very interesting because I know that it's vital for the success of any business. In fact, it's the success of any human being. Now, I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 new ways that wouldn't work. Now, those are the famous words of Thomas Edison, and you know that he was the inventor of the light bulb. Now, as a teacher, when we used to, plan our lessons for our children, we used to always have this growth mindset. There was a time that the growth mindset was so, it was drilled into every teacher's planning. And I used to think about it because I was always very, very intrigued about the way our mind works. And that is why I do what I do. I'm a therapist, I'm a mindset coach. So the gray matter in your brain actually is stimulated and activated every time we learn something new. And when we are experimenting, when we are doing new things, when we are taking those leaps into those unknown places, we actually grow the gray matter in our brain. How incredible is that? Now, I know as a business owner, we own a few businesses, we're in property, therapy, cleaning service, and it goes on. Now, I know that we wouldn't have the success if we didn't have that mindset where we are continuously growing. And today, I feel extremely excited. I feel honored to have the gorgeous Hayley Meakes with us, and she's a marketing pro. Now, the first time I met Hayley was at a workshop, and she was presenting something on marketing and mindset. Now, Hayley runs her own business. She runs a fully serviced marketing agency. She has over 20 years of marketing experience, and she has won about 4 national awards in this field. How exciting is that? Now, Hayley is also a trainer in brand and marketing and mindset. And she also hosts a really snappy podcast. I love it because I listened to a few, the SnipBit. Now, Hayley, welcome and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Hayley, you have a generational growth mindset. Now, from chatting to you, and you talk with so much of pride about your uncle and your granddad, tell us a little bit about how you became the creator of the basics growth mindset system. And I wait for this, guys. And by having this mindset system, she has run a marathon after being told by doctors that she'll never be able to walk again. She paid off a debt of over 100,000. She's gone on to creating a 6-figure business, and she's become a really awesome public speaker. Now, Hayley, you know what? A clap for you, because for somebody to use their mind to get them to walk again is incredible. And I work with clients a lot around the same things, whether it's the inability to walk again, or whether it's an illness in the body that's stopping them from doing what they need to do. Now, tell us a little bit about your story and how did this happen?
In terms of my family or in terms of my accident, where would you like me to start?
I would like you to just tell me about when did this mindset shift happen?
Well, to be fair, I've been very blessed. I was brought up by a single mum, and she struggled quite a lot with her health. And so I spent a lot of time with my grandparents. And my grandparents were proper old school. They survived World War II, which makes them pretty impressive to me. And I remember my grandpa was always my hero. He was, I just wanted to spend lots of time with him. And I remember I'd often ask him, what did you do in the war, Grandpa? Because I knew he'd been in Burma. Mm-hmm. And he never wanted to talk about it until one day I told him it was for a school project. And because it was a school project, he and my gran were really into our education. And so Grandpa agreed to sit down and we had this chat. And it was absolutely amazing. And it made me see a completely different side of him. And this was at a very young age. And I realized that he had been in Burma and he had enlisted with his friends in Enfield, and he must have been 19 or 20 at the time. And I forget that, you know, we have the internet now. We've all been on these lovely exotic holidays.
Yeah.
My granddad hadn't left Tottenham. So all of a sudden, he'd enlisted to fight for his country. And the next thing he knew, he was on a boat to Burma.
What a hero.
What a culture shock as well. And he didn't know when he was going to come back. There was no phones or technology. He was just reliant that this was something that he needed to do. And he fought in Burma, and he was in Burma for, I believe, about 5 years.
Wow.
But I'm not sure exactly of the time. And I remember at some point in the war, there was a real paperwork mix-up. And so my grandpa, who had been with his friends, his community in one troop, was transferred to another troop. And I remember him saying, at the time, he was really annoyed by this. And yet he found out later that his original troop had been ambushed and killed.
Oh my God.
So his paperwork mix-up had saved his life.
It was a blessing.
It was a blessing in disguise. And so I said to Grandpa, I said, well, what happened when you came back? You know, London had been bombed. You'd been apart from my gran for years. You'd seen things that, you know, we've seen these programs, Bridge on the River Kwai, and we see all these war films, but actually imagining living that, what it took to go out and have to fight for your country, and to have to be there to kill other people and to have the threat of being killed. I couldn't imagine it. I was imagining that they'd had some kind of plan when they all came back. And Grandpa said, and excuse my French, but we just bloody got on with it, H. And I was thinking, that's really an interesting way of behaving. And he said, I'll give you 3 important pieces of knowledge in life. And the first one is, I believe you should live your best day every day for the people who don't have the chance to live.
That is so powerful.
And he said, because I lost all those friends in the war, and we lose people all the time. And he said, it's our responsibility to live our best life for the ones who don't have that opportunity. He said, the second thing is, you know, I was really angry when I got that paperwork. He said, but actually it was a blessing. So anything that comes into your life, whether good or bad, look for the blessing, because it's in there somewhere. And thirdly, you can support any team you like as long as it's Tottenham Hotspur. To be truthful, of all 3 pieces of advice, which I have stuck to religiously.
So you're a supporter of Tottenham too?
Oh my gosh, I love Tottenham Hotspur, and I'm married to an Arsenal fan, so hey, it's conflict. But it was something that I grew up with, was that actually it's about taking responsibility. We don't just live our lives willy-nilly. We have to take responsibility. And that was something that was drilled in from a very young age, was that actually it's up to us.
Yeah. And Hayley, sorry, you know what? We can so easily go into the mode of blaming everybody else. You know, we don't internalize things enough. You know, listening to you talk about your granddad, it's very, very touching, because every time I work with a veteran, I work with somebody, because I do a lot of therapy with people that have come back with PTSD and so on. And my heart just aches for them, because, you know, they have to come, and firstly they have to go into an unknown, and then when they come back changed, and it feels like they're coming back into an unknown world and having to adapt. And that adapting ability, I think you've got that genetic, you know, adapting ability, and I think that's just amazing. So I know your granddad has given you these 3 very, very powerful ways to actually lead your life, especially Tottenham, following that. But how has that helped you? I know you've been through a lot with your accident. Tell us, how has that mindset switched you back on after you having that accident when you did?
I think, to be honest, having the accident was probably a blessing in disguise. And I know that sounds very stupid, because you can look at something and you can say, where can I see a positive in this?
Yeah.
Essentially what happened was, I was driving along, I stayed on black ice, I got hit head on by another car. I ended up being cut out of the car by the paramedics, by the police.
And you said you were 21.
Yeah, 21, 22. And I remember getting to hospital and I'd smashed my face. I had broken my jaw in 30 places. I'd torn all the ligaments in my neck. I'd fractured 6 ribs, but they were most worried about my leg, because essentially I'd dislocated my hip, but I'd smashed out the socket as well. I'd torn all the ligaments, all the tendons. I'd broken my knee, I'd broken my shin in 2 places. And they said to my mum, we think we might have to amputate her leg.
Oh gosh.
And my mother was, yes, because she's no longer with us, unfortunately. She was a proper Bible believing, praying Christian woman. And she said, I don't accept this. This is not how my daughter's life is going to be. And so what she did was she found everyone she knew and just said, pray for my daughter.
Yeah.
And 8 weeks later, I handed back my crutches.
Wow. You know, the power of prayer is incredible, but also, how did you feel when the doctor told you that leg was going to be amputated?
My mum wouldn't let the doctor tell me.
Okay.
Because mum was very much of, what she doesn't know, she needs to fight for this. And if you turn around and you put that negative thought into her head, she's not going to fight as hard, because she's got this get out of jail card free. You know, she's got this get out of jail card, and she can just sit there and go, oh, well, they did say I wouldn't be able to walk. Or they did say that this would happen. And mum wanted me to fight for it.
I would have loved your mum.
Oh, she was amazing. She was absolutely amazing. And I remember, you know, they originally said, we're going to keep you in hospital for 3 months on traction.
Yeah.
And I just said, please, no, I'm not going to survive in this hospital. I was in like without being horrible, I was in an elderly ward.
Okay.
And I was like, this is going to kill me. This is so horrible in here.
You've got a 21-year-old who's already going through so many different levels of emotions, now having to stay in a place to heal for 3 months. Oh my God.
And they were also, they'd wired my jaw to fix it. So I could only have liquidized food. And no disrespect to our NHS, because they're absolutely amazing, but the food choices for liquidized stuff wasn't exactly extensive. So they said to my mum that you have to say that, I said to mum, you have to tell them that you're going to be looking after me 24 hours a day and they'll let me home. And my mum lived opposite my gran and grandpa's house. So she said, well, technically you have got 24-hour eyes on you, because your gran and grandpa can just come over at any point in the day and look out for you. So that's what they did. And I managed to get home. And I think that was really contributory to me getting well, because I'd always been very fit. I'd been training to be a kickboxer. And so whilst I couldn't kickbox anymore, my muscles were strong. I was able to recover well.
Oh, that is amazing. That's such an inspiring story, because, you know, most often you get nowadays our young adults, their zest to push themselves further, and that sense of perseverance is very, very thin, especially during this time. And I get so many young adults that are just struggling with mental and emotional mindset hurdles, and they just find it so hard to push forward their, all of the calamities that are being thrown into their path. Now, you know what, this is really very inspiring, and thank you for sharing that. And I know by you talking about it, I can see how passionate you are just talking about it. But also from there, you gave birth to this program called the basics, the growth mindset. How did that come about?
Well, it was quite interesting because, I felt that I've always been one of life's copers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very, very confident that that was the heritage that I'd had from my grandparents, was that you got on with things. Resilience was very, very important in our family, and being resilient and overcoming obstacles. And I was very fortunate is that from a very, very young age, I'd watched my uncle competed in a number of Olympics, and he won medals for our country. And
In what field of sport?
He was an athlete. He was a decathlete actually, and he still holds the British record. And I watched success come from unlikely circumstances. So I believe that if he could achieve a gold medal at the Olympics, I could go out and achieve whatever I chose to do. And when I started to tell people that I'd been told I'd never walk again, but I was going to run the marathon, and when I told people that I'd had this business and it had failed and I'd paid back all this debt, and when I told them that I'd become a speaker and I'd got these 6-figure businesses, people were like, how did you do it? Mm. And it made me start to kind of reverse engineer and think, well, what did I do? What did I do? Was there a pattern? Was there a process? And that's where the basics came about, because I realized I did have a pattern. I did have a process, but it was something that I'd never really thought about. It was almost intrinsic. Mm. And taking back to what you said about young people, I think also a lot of the time now, it's the language that we use.
Yeah.
And I think, I have a 15-year-old stepdaughter and a 22-year-old stepson, and the language now is very, very different. I didn't have depression. I was having a bad day.
Yeah.
I didn't have anxieties. I was just nervous about something. And I think a lot of the time, the language that we use is really, really important in how we perceive it ourselves and how we react to it. And I think it's very similar to what Mum did with my leg. If she'd have turned around and said, they're saying you're never going to walk again, they're saying you're going to amputate your leg, your mentality reacts to that, your brain works with that. Whereas if we're saying, when am I going to walk again? I am going to walk again. There's a different spin. It's about having that positivity, that growth mindset, I guess.
And it's also using the power of language to change your behavior and your thinking process. 100%. And I always believe that, the words we tell ourselves every morning can either be constructive or destructive. And once we change that inner dialogue within us, and that's what I teach a lot of my clients and my patients to do, especially, clients that have, or my patients that have cancer. It's surprising that the word cancer already sends you downwards, down a spiral. And being able to pick yourself up again with having needles being poked into you and with all of the emotional baggage from other people, friends and family going to like, how is she going to survive, or is he going to survive? And that kind of mentality actually makes you depressed, and depression produces cortisol in your body, and it floods the body with all of these things. And that's definitely not the key to success. Now, Hayley, you know what? I know that a growth mindset starts new pathways in your mind. It forms these new connections that were not there yesterday. And when you are doing the same thing over and over and over, you're not developing anything new. So it's like whenever I say, you do more of the same, you get the same results. So that's where your growth mindset comes into play. Now, could you briefly explain to us the neuroscience behind this type of mindset?
Sure. I mean, if you look at it, the psychologist Carol Dweck, she identified that there was definitely two types of mindset, which is the fixed and the growth. And if you have a fixed mindset, essentially you believe that you are the result of a human lottery. So the skills, the attributes, the talents that you have are basically fixed, and there is nothing you can do to change who you are and what you can do. So almost like they see talent is success without effort. So people who are successful were born that way. They've done nothing to change their situation. They're just lucky, if you like. Whereas people who believe they have a growth mindset believe that they can change their own situation. That they believe that with dedication, with hard work, with application, they can develop a love of learning, but also a resilience, so that their talents can be created, their beliefs can be stretched, so they can change things for themselves. And again, I think it's down to how people believe in that. And so for the basics model, the most important of the 6 steps is believing in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, you have no base to start with.
And to be honest, if you don't believe in yourself and have that self-belief, you are a lost soul, because others can have that belief in you, but if you don't have it, it means zilch, you know?
There's a very famous quote that says, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you'll always be right.
Yeah.
And fundamentally, that's got to be your starting place. And if you want to change your life, your self-belief has got to be the place that you put the most effort, the most focus.
And absolutely. And I think self-belief also comes from self-love. And when you start to believe that you love yourself, you won't allow any other mindset to pop into your mind. You won't allow anybody else's negative energies to pop into you. So I love that, you know, from self-love to self-belief. And Hayley, how did this type of mindset and seeing that, you know, in your case, you were seeing physical changes in your body. You were seeing your body heal, you know, where doctors have said, no, you know, we would need to amputate your leg. Now, allowing the words that you tell yourself and allowing the self-belief in yourself, how did this make a difference now to your business? And how did that evolve?
I think that, it comes back to what Grandpa said, was that actually it's our job to make our best life. It's our job to give the best that we can every day. And that's not to say that we don't face challenges. That's not to say we don't face struggles. That's not to say that things don't go wrong. You know, I had a business fail, and there's many, many reasons, but the main reason is it's my fault. The buck stopped here. It was my business. But it's how you deal with that. And I think it is about one step forward. It is about taking positive steps. It is about sitting down and putting together a plan. It's about having the right people around you. You know, I've done a whole piece on balcony and basement people. And essentially the people around you that are your cheerleaders, that support you. And I've been very lucky. I've had some great supporters. But it's about making sure that you do it for yourself as well. And it's like, right, what is my plan? What is my strategy? And I'm always inspired by people who've done it before me, if you like. And, you know, when I talk about strategizing for success, I can't help but think of people like Oprah. And she's come from this terrible background of being dirt poor, the child of a single mum, sexually abused, living with a grandparent, and having all of this horrible start in life. And yet she is probably one of the most recognized American faces And what she's done is she had a plan. She didn't just say, these are my circumstances and I'm going to stick here.
Yeah.
She had a plan to get herself beyond her circumstances. And I think that's critical to mindset.
And she rose, you know, a beautiful person like that. She rose from her adversities and she just shone, you know. I have lots of people ask her. I remember I had this teenager asking me, so what's your definition about life? And it took me aback because I needed to think about it because I was running a youth group during this time. It was a few years ago. And in a youth, they either trust you or they think you're talking total bollocks.
Yeah.
So I told them, you know what I think life is? Life is where you're continuously finding solutions to problems. And the only time this stops is when you are 6 feet under or when you're a handful of dust.
Mm.
And then they wanted me to explain this a little bit more. The reality is that every day we are awake, there's new things coming into our way. It's so beautiful because if new problems were not coming your way, then you would be sitting back and saying, oh, life is all content. I'm not going to think anymore. I'm not going to do anymore. I'm just going to just enjoy and be content. And believe you me, having that mindset for just 1 or 2 days or even a week would be fine. But then after talking about myself, I'd be totally bored. I need to learn new things. Now, you know, Nelson Mandela, I always talk about him because I come from South Africa. I saw him at the first time I saw him at a rugby match. I felt chills run down my body because I love that man and I love the way he rose above his adversities. He says, "Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and I got back up again." Now, with our Madiba, oh my God, he fell down, but he rose up again continuously. Now, what sets you apart from the other marketing and branding agencies that you have?
See, this is very difficult question to answer in terms of the branding and marketing, because there's some good guys out there and there is a lot of people who are doing a really great job. I like to think that where I can add value is that I work as an extension of people's teams. So I really sort of try and get under the skin of the business and the brands that we work with. I think I'm always trying to add value. And I think that's very, very important. But also I'm able to bring the business knowledge, the marketing and brand knowledge, but also the mindset and pull those together. And that's probably where the differential lies, I would say.
And you wouldn't believe it, that one piece to the puzzle, the mindset piece to that puzzle, makes a huge difference because I also say that, you know, your skill set is one thing, but your mindset is everything. You know, you have like some people having the most brilliant idea. They have the most brilliant idea on paper, and but to put themselves out there, you need your mindset. To execute, you need your mindset. You need to have that, you know, lion, that fire in you igniting, so that you can make a difference and set yourself apart from other people. Now, could you give me 2 examples of the most common problems faced today by entrepreneurs, and how would you help them overcome it?
Well, generally, when I'm doing the mentoring, I do a lot of mentoring for smaller businesses, and most people's challenges fall into lack of customers, lack of sales, lack of money, lack of time.
Okay.
So all of those 4 things essentially are the most common of problems. I would say that if you have a lack of sales, a lack of money, and a lack of customers, you need to learn marketing. It's the essential lifeblood of every business. And so what I did was I took 20 years of marketing knowledge, and I've created a 7.5-hour course which gives everybody those marketing fundamentals that they need to be able to understand and market their business for themselves.
And what is this course called?
It is called Get Great at Marketing. And it just gives people that basis and that background. And I have so many people that come to us when it's too late.
Yeah. But
they haven't applied basic marketing principles. And I shouldn't say this, but marketing isn't rocket science. It isn't. It is just about following a process, like most things are. And the second thing is the time aspect. And I think it's because too often what we try and do is we respond to other people's urgencies, whereas we don't look at our own. Yeah. So I've now started to, and this is something that I learned from Rob Moore, is to each day look at my list and compile it into 3 Ds. What do I need to do? What do I need to delegate? And what do I need to delete? And focus then myself on the hardest thing I have to do in the day that's going to give me the most value, and work on that first. And if necessary, I turn off my emails, I turn off my phone, just to give me that concentration time. Yeah,
I read his book, and he mentioned that there, the life leverage, I think it was.
That's right, yes.
That is very, I love that. I love where you have to be able to distribute, you have to be able to delegate and so on. But there's so many business entrepreneurs and small business owners that are so, they feel like it's their baby. They cannot let go. They cannot get other people on board. And over the years, I would be very honest, about 10 years ago, I had that mindset where it's my baby, I need to do it. But I realized that if you don't collaborate, if you don't bring other people and you don't build a team around yourself, you're not going to go very far. And your baby you actually prevent that baby from growing and doing more good in the world than just keeping it to yourself. Now, if I have to think about how people overcome like issues of money and time and so on, during this time here, I hear so many people saying, oh my God, I don't have the time. Most of the time is spent on stressing about what they need to do. And I always say that thinking is more hard work than doing, because so many people are thinkers, and then it takes them longer to translate those thoughts into actions. And for you to have this growth mindset, you have to be able to do both. You have an idea, you need to be able to put it out there and see how it grows and how it changes the way you are. What advice do you give people when it comes to using their time?
I'm very lucky, is that I believe it's really important to have a power team.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, we can all do everything within our business, but we probably don't do it as well or as quick or enjoy it as much as other aspects. So the first thing I did when I set up my business is, I hate numbers and finance, and that just messes with my brain. So I brought on a financial controller, someone who could deal with the numbers. I'm not massively technical. So I then got somebody on board who could help me. And let's be honest, everybody needs a Mark. I have a Mark, and he is fantastic. And if I have a technical problem, if no one else can help, Mark is my guy. And, I've got people who do my videography for me on my social media, or who do my design. So what I've done is I've built around me the people who can do the things that either I'm not great at or don't enjoy, so that I can then concentrate on the stuff that I'm best at. And I think that's really important, because yes, I could do the financials. I mean, I wouldn't do them as well as Lisa, but I could do them. But the time it would take me and the brain space it takes up is totally disproportionate to the reward.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important, is to sit down and almost create an organizational chart of all the roles within your business, and then decide which ones you're really good at and which you're passionate about, and see how quickly you can outsource the others.
Oh, that's amazing advice. That is really great. And I think that's a really good place to actually start when it comes to growing your business and seeing the direction and knowing the vision of your business. What are your, if you could think about 3 of your greatest tips that you have for a happy, healthy, successful life, what would it be?
The first one is focus on the 3 F's: faith, family, friends.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably the most important thing. We all got into business to do stuff and to manage our own time and to be our own bosses. And sometimes it's really cool to be able to say, do you know what? Today I'm going to pick up my little niece and nephew from school and spend some quality time with them.
Oh my God, I'm doing that just after this.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And, or do you know what? I'm going to go out for a moment. We can't go anywhere, but it's nice to just say, do you know, I'm going to go for a walk with my husband, or I'm going to FaceTime a friend, or I'm going to do this, just to do some time and think about faith, family, friends.
Yeah.
My second thing is, what's your use of language? And I go back to what I said. I'm having a bad day. I'm not having a bad life.
Yeah.
And positively, I think what you focus your mind on is what you attract.
Positively reframing constantly.
100% positively reframing. And I'd probably end up with what my grandpa said, which was really, really important, which is make every day your best day, because you do it because other people who haven't had that opportunity to be able to live that day, you need to do the best day for them.
Those are 3 such simple but powerful things to adopt. Talking about your last one that your granddad mentioned, your grandpa, I am going to make sure that that's what I do, because many people that I've come across and I work with when it comes to mindset and business and entrepreneurs, they usually have this like, you know what, I feel guilty if I'm making too much money. I feel guilty for people, so the guilt comes into play and so on. And some people don't know how to celebrate, how to celebrate the achievements. They find that it's very hard to get compliments and all of those little niggly things. But those are the beautiful places where to start. And I'm so grateful to have you here sharing with us this wealth of knowledge and your experience for the last 20 years. Now, if you could, no COVID here, please. If you could sum up one, what would be one word that you would use to sum up your vision for 2021?
For me personally, or for people generally?
For you personally, and then we can talk about people generally.
My vision for 2021 is add as much value to people as possible.
So one word would be value.
Value.
And what word would you use for the rest of the world?
I think it's self-development, which sounds really extensive, and it's not meant to be. I know that last year I set myself a task of reading 3 self-development or business books a month for the whole year. And the amount of stuff that I learned that I could put into practice was mind-blowing. And I think now, when we're in a situation where we can't go out, we can't necessarily do all the things that we want, that doesn't stop us from learning and trying to improve ourselves. So for me, it's giving value and focusing on self-development.
2 beautiful things and we can, we don't have to wait until we get the right board. We don't have to wait until we get the right material or equipment. These are 2 things you can start right now. And that is how you make your vision work. Now, Hayley, I want to say thank you so much for being here and sharing with us and talking about your family, because I love that. I have a tattoo on my neck says family love, because I'm very passionate about family and my family in South Africa and family around here. So family and friends are right on the top of my list of priorities. Um, Thank you so much for bringing your dad, your granddad, and your uncle onto the Chatty Cuppa. And you definitely have rewired and inspired to spark that inner fire in whoever's listening to this. Thank you so much. And I want to end off with what Albert Einstein had said. He says, the most important thing is to not stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existing. One cannot help but be in awe when he contemplates the mysteries of eternity of life and of the marvelous structure of reality. And our realities is what we make. We make our realities. We make our happiness. We make our love. Everything happens from within. And we need to remember that one way of growing is to start with the mindset. Remember, skill set is one thing, but mindset is everything. Thank you so much for listening and being here. And Hayley, just before we go, where can people find you?
If you go to my website, www.hayleymeakes.co.uk, I've got a couple of free ebooks, one on mindset and one on marketing. And I've also got a lot of videos and blog content, and people can see all the type of stuff I do. I'm also on all the usual social channels, and I think I'm the only Hayley Meakes on virtually everything. So come and find me.
Definitely. And about your course, I'm definitely going to tell my daughter to do it because she's just started her journey as a digital marketing executive. So she's just got her first job in that field.
Oh,
so and she's got this mind that I still get to feel in awe about, because some of her ideas are just amazing. Again, thank you so much. Lots of love. Be blessed always. Remember, have an open heart and an open mind, and that's your key to happiness and to success. From Nirasha, from Just Simply Change, lots of love. Keep smiling.